Welcome back. We are in week 12, and this is not a lecture but more a summary on what we've done. So, we're not going to see anything new. After having read about software testing and software engineering for 12 weeks, it is useful to devote at least one talk or lecture on summarizing what we've done so that it helps you to recap the entire contents of the course and makes you better prepared for your final exam. So I hope you found this course useful. And what did we do? We started out with week 1. I've broken it up into groups of weeks and given you an overview of the topics that we've done here. So we'll just walk through this for this lecture. So week 1, we basically introduced the notion of software testing, gave you a lot of motivating examples about why testing is a robust technique to find errors, and errors that escape can be disastrous. Companies investing a lot of time on quality and assurance for testing. We gave an overview of software development lifecycle processes and the role of testing in the software development lifecycle. Of course, now after a full-fledged course in software engineering, you know it much better than what that module taught you. We also introduced all the basic terminologies that you would need in testing: fault, defect, errors, test cases, types of testing, phases of testing, and so on. And we saw test automation with a tool like JUnit. Knowing a tool like JUnit is the first step to getting started with practical testing and being confident in writing test cases yourself and executing it based on the language that you're comfortable with. There would be some version equivalent of JUnit for XUnit for that language X that you can always test your programs with. Then we moved on and looked at 4 important paradigms. One set of lectures based on testing using the notion of graphs. One set of lectures based on testing using the notion of logical predicates, which occur all over programs. One notion of testing that is purely black box, doesn't look at the structure of the code at all, so it looks a lot at requirements. And finally, a notion of testing that detects very low-level programming errors, which is based on the syntax by mutating programs. These were the 4 basic techniques that we learned: black box and white box. In graph-based testing, I like to be self-contained, so we revised the basics of graphs, some elementary graph algorithms. Then you look at control flow graphs, which is purely the structure of transfer of control from one statement to the other in a program. Don't look at any variables, any information about the variables. Then you can still do a lot of testing based on this structure of the control flow graph. Testing for nodes ensures every statement is executed. Testing for edge coverage ensures every transfer of control is executed. Testing for prime paths ensures that every loop is executed for loop coverage. Then we saw data flow criteria, the most elementary data flow criteria about data definitions, data uses. Augmented the control flow graph nodes and edges with data definitions, data uses, and tracked data flow criteria from every definition to one or more uses. We applied this kind of theoretical graph-based testing that we learned to test with source code, saw a few examples. Then we applied it on call graphs, understood what call interfaces are, looked at structural coverage criteria and data flow coverage criteria over coupling variables on the data flow graph, which concentrates on the call interfaces. We also applied it to specifications, testing for sequencing constraints, and also saw how we could use it to test finite state machines. So this was all about graph-based testing that we saw, which was generic. It could be applied at the unit level. It could be applied at the integration level for testing call interfaces, purely structural, control flow, and based on data definitions and uses, which dealt with data flow. This could be applied to code, specifications, call interfaces, your wish. Then we moved on and looked at logic-based testing. Code has a lot of logical predicates. Every decision statement in the code has some logical predicate or the other. So we did logic-based testing. We would like again to be self-contained. So we revised logic, reintroduced logic, the kinds of logic that we encounter in testing, the problem of satisfiability, which is what we need to get one test case that makes the predicate true. We introduced that problem. Then we looked at logic-based coverage criteria. Just ensuring predicate coverage, just ensuring clause coverage was not enough. We had to exercise each clause as it exercises the predicate. That's what we called as active clause coverage criteria. In common man's parlance, that's called MCDC, modified condition decision coverage. We saw variants of active clause coverage criteria and also saw algorithms that make a clause determine the predicate. We applied it again to test code, how to do reachability, infection, and propagation over code to get to reach a particular logical predicate. We applied it to logical specifications that come as preconditions and also guards that come in finite state machines. We looked at a variant, a useful application of logic-based testing called symbolic execution. It is basically a testing technique that helps you to drive execution paths of a program and cover various execution paths in the program. Probably the toughest technique that we've learned in the course, but a very trending, very useful technique. We also took this opportunity to learn a bit more about SAT solvers and SMT solvers. Then later we looked at black box testing, a relatively easier concept because it's looking at inputs, outputs, and requirements and designing test cases based on these. We looked at techniques like equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, clubbed them together and theoretically saw it as partitioning input spaces, various coverage criteria for that, and examples to illustrate the usefulness of these coverage criteria. We also briefly looked at decision tables based testing and of course random testing. Then we looked at a low-level debugging technique called mutation testing, which basically treats the program as a string generated by a grammar. So we revised some basics of grammars. Then for a program, you come up with a set of mutation operators and they mimic changes that you can make to the program to test for common programming mistakes and also encourage you to test for common issues like division by zero errors and array index mismatch and stuff like that. So we applied mutation testing again to several software artifacts starting from code at the level of interfaces, and we also can mutate inputs. So these were the test design techniques that we learned. You could now what we do is we look at categories of popular software applications that are developed. Object-oriented software is one popular applications. We devoted 1 week to learning about problems related to object-oriented design, categories of faults and anomalies, how to capture call interfaces over object-oriented design, and how to capture coupling criteria for object-oriented programs. They are different from the coupling criteria that you see in normal interfaces. Here, if their method is polymorphic, if there is dynamic binding, you have to consider it. That's the difference between normal coupling and object-oriented coupling and the call interfaces. Web applications are another popular class of software these days. So we devoted 1 week to testing of web applications. We introduced web applications. They have a client, which is the browser, and a server. We saw client-side testing techniques, two popular ones, user session data and bypass testing. And we also saw one server-side testing technique. A lot of web applications testing is dictated by the firms that develop these web applications, large software companies. So if you work for one such company, you will get to use your own web applications technique. But these kinds of techniques are technology independent, fairly platform independent and generic and cut across several different categories of dynamic web applications. Week 12, which is this week, was another light week where we saw an overview of several different topics that we hadn't seen in the rest of the course but related to software testing. So this also gives you all the reference books and materials and the papers that we have used. You could contact me or the instructors if you need to refer to any of these specific papers for extra notes. I wish you all the best. Thank you.